I'm Wendell Jones, and welcome to this edition of the program Jones and Company, our last Jones and Company program for the year 2014. And we thank you so very much for listening to us on this program over the last 20 years. And it's our pleasure to bring you this program this season. Our guest on the program today is a familiar voice throughout the Bahamas. He's been involved in the political firmament of our country for many years and served as the Minister of Works in the First Christie administration. But prior to that, he held various positions in government, at one time chairman of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation. He is the chairman of the Progressive Liberal Party, and he is quite outspoken on a number of issues, and it's our pleasure to have him here this time of the year to review the last year and to talk about what we can expect in the year 2015. Mr. Bradley Roberts, our special guest today. Welcome, Mr. Roberts.
Good evening, Brother Jones, and it's a pleasure to be here. And congratulations to you on 20 years, consecutive years. It is a significant milestone.
Yes.
And I congratulate you and wish you many, many more years of success ahead.
Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to have you here today. When we thought of a guest who can encapsulate the events of 2014, we thought of you because you've been quite prolific in your press releases over the last year. How do you describe the year 2014?
It's been a very interesting year. We started out with great expectations of the fulfillment of some objectives. We didn't achieve those, some beyond the control of the administration. A significant one was the hotel at Bahama was scheduled to open this month, but it's now been put back until sometime next year. Mm-hmm. A lot of people was looking forward to that, but that did not materialize. But it will embrace 2015 and will, from there on, start to make a significant impact in the lives of Bahamians and the country as a whole.
So the economy did not work out the way you thought it would work out?
Well, that was projected to be a significant factor. Mm. There's been a number of bright spots on the economy. Bimini is one area that is very positive. I was just there the other day, and Bimini is going full blast, and the forecast is for continued growth in Bimini. The new hotel in Bimini will open 200 rooms on the 10th or 11th of January of 2015. That was a hotel that was built in record time, 350 rooms, so 200 of those will come on stream, and that means more employment. The airlift into Bimini is continuing to increase, and also with the new ferry service going into Bimini, Bimini future is secured, and secured at the same time jobs for Bahamians of significant income. Mm-hmm. But then we go to the other islands, yes, where there is positive news happening in the island of Eleuthera, San Salvador, and in the Berry Islands. Very positive news in the Berry Islands is happening there. Yeah. Yes.
What's happening in the Berry Islands?
Well, Berry Islands has no unemployment.
It's a small little island.
Well, so with Bimini too, but yes, look how it's expanded in the last 18 months. And Berry Islands would like to maintain their present level of employment and continue to grow. I don't think that they would contend any large expansion there. Exuma, for example, the Prime Minister indicated that we should expect significant growth in Exuma in 2015, and that is good news.
But Bahamians who live in New Providence and Grand Bahama, they want some good news. We have tens of thousands of Bahamians who are unemployed in the two major population centers of the Bahamas, New Providence and Grand Bahama. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama was impacted negatively more than any family islands in the Bahamas. If we can call Grand Bahama family island, they don't like to be referred to them. They like to be referred to as a second city. Mm-hmm. Their unemployment levels was the highest in the country, historically over the last 4 or 5 years. There's been some change of fortunes there, and just the other day the government announced additional cruise ships and the replacement of one, and Bahamians being employed on those cruise ships up to 50%, and the movement of more persons coming into Grand Bahama, which is positive news for those people in Grand Bahama. I understand that the government intends to make a significant announcement with regard to the west end of Grand Bahama sometime in early 2015, and there's also the possibility of that matter with regard to East Grand Bahama. I don't know, it's a question of show and tell whether that will materialize or not, but we shall see.
When do you think, Mr. Roberts, that we would see an appreciable decline in the level of unemployment in the country? The U.S. economy has rebounded and rebounded extremely well. There is real growth now in the United States. Mr. Obama's his rate of acceptancy and people are looking at him as being someone who made things happen. When do you think we would see a significant decline in our unemployment situation?
Well, first, Mr. Jones, it's significant that just this past week we saw the Dow Jones average hit 18,000, the first time in the history of the United States. As you mentioned, there's been good news on the economic front, on the unemployment is going down and so forth. The Bahamas usually has a kinship with the United States. When they start to improve, our fortunes start to improve because more tourists from the United States, which is our biggest market, start to come to the Bahamas. So that's positive news for us on the horizon.
But they've been improving for a little while.
Yes.
For some time. But we are not seeing...
Not to the extent that the voters feel that they were happy, because just in the recent election, in the midterm election, the Democrats got slaughtered. All right?
Yes.
So it's a bit of a mismatch. On one hand, they say they were not happy. On the other hand, now we see in the realization of what Obama said was going to happen, and in fact, it is happening right now. And I hope it continues in a positive direction for the United States, which will in turn augur well for us here in the Bahamas. Now, we have another challenge for the Bahamas, and that is the opening of Cuba. If the U.S. Congress agrees to removal of the embargo. Obama has started the process, but it's up to the Congress of the United States to do the rest. And we shall see what will happen there.
Do you see the fortunes of our country declining with the opening of Cuba, with the lifting of the embargo? Fortunes in the tourism industry?
Mr. Jones, let's not stick our head in the proverbial sand. The Bahamas benefited as a result of the closure of Cuba.
Yes.
Our fortune started to go in an upward direction from the time the embargo was placed on Cuba.
Yeah.
And we've been growing as a result of it. It stands to reason that there may be some reversal of that. But because of the relationship that the Bahamas has with the rest of the Caribbean and so on, and we all advocate this mutual coexistence, I believe that we will continue in a positive direction. The tourists will go to Cuba and tourists will come to the Bahamas.
But we have seen a report in recent days, the IMF report, which spoke of the market share that we are losing, that the Bahamas has become not as attractive as it used to be.
Yes, we did slip, according to that report,
yes,
2 percentage points
yes,
over a 7-year period.
But that is significant, isn't it?
Yes, it is significant. And it obviously sends a very, very clear message to Bahamians that we got to pull up our socks, that we are in a competitive situation, and that we just cannot sit back on our loins and expect that the same old to continue. That we need a new injection, new enthusiasm in our forward movement in tourism. That we got to re-energize ourselves, and that leading to the direction of recapturing our #1 position.
But you know, that re-engineering, re-energizing, that must be led by the government, wouldn't you say?
It has to be led by all parties concerned.
No, but all can't lead.
Well, no, but we could all move together in one direction. And whilst it is desirable that we all sing together in harmony to receive an objective, that we should all be moving in harmony to obtain an objective.
But the point is that if we are going to see the improvement in our product, if the tourism industry is going to grow, the government of the Bahamas must take a leadership role in transforming the product or re-energizing it.
Well, that has to be led by the Ministry of Tourism.
Yes.
They have the experts there in tourism, people who study and continue to study the tourism business. The largest industry in the world today is the tourism industry. I mean, it's eclipsed all the other industry, according to something I read the other day.
Yes.
The United States attracts large numbers to its shore. The other countries around the world do the same thing as well, too. So we all in this business together, and we in the Bahamas, if we're going to maintain our niche, we have to reinvent ourselves, and we must position ourselves to that position where we are attracted to people to continue to come here.
This is the 50th anniversary of the Ministry of Tourism, 2014. The ministry was organized as a ministry in 1964. And
joined internal self-government.
Yes, January 1964. And there are a good number of Bahamians in the industry and who are people who are armchair watchers in the industry who do not believe that we have taken advantage of our proximity to the United States of America. We have not taken full advantage of the serenity that we have, the beauty of the Bahamas. How do you respond to those kind of comments?
Well, Mr. Jones, from my observation, the Ministry of Tourism appears to be re-energizing itself. They got new people coming in, new brighter, sharper people with a lot of academics and so forth. The minister is listening to these people. He's also engaging consultants in the area of tourism to advise the government as to what they should be doing. And once you put all that together, it should all go well for the positive growth of the country.
Let's leave the tourism industry a little while, but I want to stay on the economy of the Bahamas, Mr. Roberts, on the statement of a lack of empowerment of professional Bahamians to really earn what they think they deserve to earn in our country. There are a good number of professional Bahamians, whether they are architects and engineers and others, who believe that they are being displaced in their own country.
Mr. Jones, I have heard this over and repeatedly, and not just yesterday or even 10 years ago. It's an ongoing thing. And it will continue to go on. The reality is that we are living in a global village today, Mr. Jones. And if one is sitting and expecting for something to be placed on one's plate, then I think one is moving in the wrong direction. You have to be aggressive. You got to sell yourself. Nobody's going to come and put anything in your lap. If it's out there and it is for you, you will get that. If you don't go there and pursue it, somebody else will embrace it and will leave you behind. That's the way I see it. But we are being driven by this global village, and that the competition is getting stiffer and stiffer every day. You got Bahamians engaged overseas in companies overseas who are competing for business in the Bahamas, Mr. Jones. Bahamians living overseas, working for foreign companies who got their eyes on business in the Bahamas. And one might argue, should they not have an interest as well too? They're Bahamians too. But they are working for a company elsewhere and so forth. So there we have it. The competition, Mr. Jones. Competition keeps one on one's toes. And one cannot assume because you're a Bahamian and you live here in the Bahamas, you're entitled to certain things when you got Bahamians who are living elsewhere.
Yeah, but there are some Bahamians who expect their government to protect them in the
extent that you're able to do so, Mr. Jones.
But let's talk about legal immigration, the extent to which the government allows people here legally to displace Bahamians who are quite qualified and willing to take positions. We're not talking about illegal immigration now. We're talking about the legal immigration. That there are professionals who feel unprotected by government policy.
Well, then we'd have to have a look at that, Mr. Jones, if that is the case. But, you know, let's take, for example, in the legal profession. I am aware that there are a number of lawyers here in the Bahamas who are unemployed, and there seems not to be any work for them. Whereas the accountants, for example, that seemed not to be the case. Okay? So I think that our people, in looking ahead as to what area they should get involved, have to examine very carefully and identify and evaluate whether they wish to go in direction A, B, C, or D. But we do have a proliferation of attorneys in this country, and every week it looks as though there are more coming into the area.
Yeah, I'm sure you are also aware of the so-called brain drain from the Bahamas, because there are many people who feel that the economy is not growing fast enough and the opportunities, they do not abound in the Bahamas.
That is the same thing I mentioned a while ago. Companies, international companies, are pulling away, or Bahamians are gravitating to those companies. They go to school in Canada, go to school in England, and they are perceived to be bright lights. Who do you think is going to reach out? Don't you think they'll reach out and embrace those people? They're doing so, Mr. Jones. We live in one big global village today, and in order to compete, you better be good in your area. If not, you're going to get left behind.
As simple as that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Fred Mitchell, on the question of illegal immigration, has mounted what many people believe to be a sensible policy to rid the country of illegal immigration. But he has not been given a free ride, so to speak. He has been roundly criticized by the human rights people out of Grand Bahama in particular, saying that the mode of operation being employed is a wrong one, that people should be arrested and charged before our courts. What is your view on that?
Well, the law is very clear as to what the rights of the Bahamian government is. And I think Mr. Mitchell has done an excellent job in explaining what the laws are, that an immigration officer on suspicion can apprehend someone, and unless they're able to demonstrate that they have the right to be in the country, the government has the right to ship them out. And that is what the government is doing. That law, Mr. Jones, is no different from the laws in the United States, in Canada, in England, where they are shipping people out of those countries on a daily basis. A case in point is in Trinidad the other day. I think they got a plane load of Africans that the Trinidad government shipped all the way back to Nigeria. After going through a process of challenges before the courts, and 60 or 70 of them, they paid for them, and they ship them back to Africa. Painful, difficult for some people, but the reality is that is the law.
And you believe that in terms of the government exercising the right of the government with compassion, that is being done?
Yes, yes. Mr. Mitchell is an individual whom I know very well. He's very compassionate, and he understands the sensitivity of these matters. And Mr. Jones, we will always have detractors. I believe that if God was to come down on the earth and was to take over Mr. Mitchell's job, they'll criticize him as well too. But there you are. That's a part of our makeup.
Yeah.
You will always have your detractors.
All of this has to do with the economy of the Bahamas and whether or not it's firing on all cylinders, as they say. And talking about the economy, let's talk a little bit about energy. This year, the Bahamian people have been waylaid, and they have been really battling with high cost of energy.
Well, Mr. Jones has been a bright spot though. The price of gasoline has gone down substantially.
Yes, but not the electricity bills of the average Bahamian.
It has not commensurately gone down. And
commensurately, it hasn't gone down at all.
Well, there has been some decline. As Mr. Miller, the chairman, explained, and as a former chairman of BEC and former minister responsible, I understood clearly what he said. At Clifton is supposed to be the center for the base load for BEC. The Blue Hills power plant is supposed to be for any additional load or excessive loads. What they have been doing is they've been running the Blue Hills stations for the main source of generating power. The cost of producing energy at Blue Hills is significantly higher than it is in producing electricity at Clifton, because there's two types of fuel being used. At Clifton, they're using the bunker C, and at Clifton and at Blue Hills, they're using diesel. It's a hell of a difference between the two. So therein lies the dilemma. But let me say this, Mr. Jones. I am privy to the fact that the government is in the process, because the government announced it himself, and hopefully shortly will be able to announce that sometime in 2015 there will be a major reduction in the cost of electricity. This is something that we promised, and this is something that the government intends to deliver upon.
In 2015?
And 15, yes, sir.
A major reduction,
yes, sir,
in the cost of electricity.
Yes, sir.
Well, it should happen, Mr. Roberts, given the fact that the cost of oil has dropped considerably.
Yes, Mr. Jones,
dropped by more than 40%.
I explained the reason for the dilemma.
Yes, but it had nothing to do with the government's promise some time ago, because the price of oil has been dropping precipitously in recent months.
If it was predicated on the oil cylinders running as they were at that time or anticipated, yes, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But when you have that phenomenon that we found when we came back to office, whereby the power plant at Clifton were allowed to just run down, and they've been working towards restoring that so that we can get the maximum benefit out of Clifton and the whole network of the power stations.
You know, when you look at the cost of gasoline in this country and compare it, say, with our nearest neighbor, Florida, it's a disgrace.
But a different taxation.
Fine.
Yes.
But the taxation is too high, wouldn't you say?
Well, Mr. Jones, it depends. It depends from what perspective you are evaluating that. That is the major source of revenue for the government of the Bahamas. You look at the monies earned from custom duties, the majority of it comes from oil. Second comes from vehicles. You know, I have to analyze, you know. So there you are.
Let's take a break here, Mr. Roberts. We're going to stay on this energy thing because I know that there has been an allegation recently of corruption involving the Bahamas Electricity Corporation some time ago, and I'd want you to comment on that. But let's take this break on our program, and we'll come right back.